The greatest threat to our country is, and the greatest threat to our national security is the debt.
Hi, everybody. Auntie speaks. If you like my content, please subscribe. It helps me out. So we're going to talk about our country and how quickly our country could become a third world. I know we think that it could never happen, but it could. So we got some of my favorite Republicans here, true Republicans in the best sense of the word, the people who are concerned with the direction of the country and trying to fix it.
Over the past 2 decades, Congress has been bankrupting our nation. You go back to the year 2000, our national debt was $5 trillion. That sounds like a wildly different world than where we are today, because it was a wildly different world. Think about that for a moment. 42 presidents over the course of more than 2 centuries had built up a total debt of $5 trillion. Then a Republican came into office, George W. Bush. And over the next 8 years, under a Republican president, our national debt went from $5 trillion to $10 trillion. We doubled the national debt in just 8 years. Then a Democrat came into office, Barack Obama. And over the next 8 years, the national debt doubled yet again, going from $10 trillion to $20 trillion. Now pause and reflect on that. 42 presidents over 2 centuries build $5 trillion in debt. 2 presidents, 1 Republican and 1 Democrat, over just 16 years, quadrupled our national debt. And now over the last 6 years, again with a Republican president and a Democrat president, we've seen national debt grow from $20 trillion to $31.5 trillion. This is unsustainable.
Isn't that incredible how he lays that out? This is a Democratic problem and a Republican problem. Listen to those numbers and ask yourself if this can continue.
The American people at home, if you're fed up with inflation, if you're fed up with the cost of food skyrocketing, with the cost of electricity, of rent, of lumber, of mortgages, of gasoline, of cars, of everything you buy, it's because politicians in Washington cannot stop spending money that we don't have.
Yes. I think most people probably who are watching this video agree, but we need to send this out. Education about how the government works and how inflation works is incredible. Most people have absolutely no idea why eggs are twice as much as they were before. Why is rent so high? Why is all the lumber so high? Why can't you buy a home for under $500,000 anymore? It's because the government has been paying off their cronies. All those huge bills, the only people it helps is the government and their friends. And the American people suffer. Listen to this.
With regard to the debt ceiling, the far left, the big government crowd, and Wall Street tell you all the time, they put out all the time, you have to spend more money, run up more debt, and raise taxes. And if you ever say that you need to stop, then they say the world will end and we'll have plagues that even Moses would flinch at. It is a complete lie. We can balance the budget, right? Our states do it, countries do it. Now, if we don't balance the budget, who makes money? Well, DC bureaucrats do really well. The people that make money off of government, they do really well. Wall Street sells a whole bunch more bonds, they do really well. The rich are going to continue to get richer. And guess what happens to the American public? Their mortgage rates go up, their credit card interest rates go up, eggs cost more, meat costs more, and the average American is paying for all this.
See? That's why it's both Democrats and Republicans. Have you ever wondered why so many people leave the government as millionaires? Isn't that strange? I mean, sure, they make a great wage, you know, $150,000, I think, $1,000 a year, $180,000 a year, which is a really nice wage, but it's not millions of dollars. It's because they're paying off their cronies. Imagine a janitor. He works all day, back-breaking labor, and he pays his taxes so that both Democrat and Republicans can pay off their friends and then place it on the back end in their pocket. Is that right?
Large governments, and they do, but they're actually fiscally responsible in the sense that they spend what comes in. We could do it in our country. If we were to have a $100 billion cut, which would still have us spending way more than we spent before COVID, a $100 billion cut and free spending, we would balance our budget in just 4 years. This is amazing. We have an opportunity here. It could be done, but it would take compromise between both parties. Republicans would have to give up the sacred cow that says we will never touch a dollar in military, and the Democrats would have to give up the sacred cow that they will never touch a dollar in welfare.
See? It can be done. It can be done. And I have said this is a Democrat and Republican problem, but the Democrats have gone way, 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 way overboard at this point. The last freaking budget that Biden put forward was like $4 trillion. Now you think that you just heard before that the government spends 4.9 trillion or something like that. The budget that Biden put through did not include all the other mandatory stuff like welfare, Social Security. That was outside of that. So it would literally be like doubling our yearly budget. That's what the Democrats put forward last time. This is craziness. This is craziness. And I disagree with the Republicans here. I think you need to make it super, super simple. A cent. That's it. Maybe even a half a cent. Every person, every government entity, everything that gets money from the government goes down a cent. That's it. Then nobody can come out and say, oh, you're attacking this group or you're attacking that group. Every single person has to give a cent back. Every person. I think that's something that could be sold to the American public. Now, why is this so important now? You just heard Rand Paul said it. We can do it easily. Now, it will be painful the way he's talking about it. I think you should just say a cent. Everybody gives back a cent. But why is it so important now?
So you heard Senator Cruz talk about how quickly we got into this pickle, basically just a little over 20 years, which gives you a little bit of extrapolate that into the future. And the only politician who's had the nerve to put a budget out has been from the President, Biden. So he, unapologetic about it, shows us from this 31 trillion we're in debt, taking all of us to 45 trillion in just 10 years. And that's way under the mark because interest rates have gone up 4 percentage points by the Fed here recently. Reporter to tell me what 1% of 30 trillion was. Anybody remember that? Remember, it wasn't easy to come up with it, and the first guess was 300 million. Well, it's 300 billion. The numbers I just gave you in terms of what Biden is unapologetically and brazenly saying for the future of our country, 45 trillion in debt, doesn't take into consideration the interest cost and the crowding out. And the reason I want you to know what 1% of 30 trillion is, take 4% of 30 trillion. That's the interest that's going to get priced in to the cost of carrying this debt. You do the math with what we're currently paying in interest, that's as much interest as we just spent on that monstrosity of an omnibus bill that just went through the door at 1.7 trillion.
Yeah? Does that make sense? I always love listening to young people complain about interest rates. If you're anywhere close to 50 and you bought your home when you were younger, you remember what interest rates were like then. You're talking 12%, 15% to buy a home. Can you imagine what would happen to the United States if we had $41 trillion worth of debt and we had to pay, I don't know, it's 4 right now. What if it goes to 5, 6, 7, 8? That would eat up all of the budget. And then we'd really have to make some tough decisions. So guys, the debt and spending is one of the most important things that needs to be tackled. And the humorous thing is it could be fixed. It would take some pain for a little bit, but we could fix it. But they don't want to fix it. They believe in Keynesian economics. If you don't know what Keynesian economics is, look it up. It was this super crazy guy, Keynes, who just thinks that anytime you're in an economics crisis, you can spend a bunch of money and you can get out of that economic crisis, i.e. Obama. Okay? It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So, guys, please share this. We need to educate the public, all your friends who don't care about economics. We need to educate them on why this is important. And when the Democrats come out and start crying that the Republicans want to starve single mothers and take food out of the mouth of babes, they do that when Republicans want to cut an increase. Every year, the budget has an automatic increase of like 3%. It follows inflation. If Republicans even want to cut that, meaning cut the increase, they complain that we want to kill grandma and take food out of the mouth of babes. Okay, the adults need to step up. Could the adults and sanity please come back? So guys, thank you so much. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this. I know it's super boring and it's not as fun as watching crazy people, but it's super, super important.